Welcome everyone to the Thousand Goddesses Gathering Womb Heart series. My name is Mare Cromwell and I'm a Gaia communicator and high priestess. I have surrendered to serve the Great Mother. And Mother Gaia has asked me to organize the first Thousand Goddesses Gathering on the Washington Mall in 2016. I'll give you a little background about what this is. This event is based on a Tibetan prophecy that when 1,000 goddesses or Tibetan Taras unite, the tone of our sacred earth will shift from fear to compassion. So since 2016, the Thousand Goddesses Gathering has evolved into a unified field of divine feminine ceremonies around the world. The global grid this year is on October 23rd, 2021. So earlier this spring, Mother Gaia and the overarching spiritual council behind the Thousand Goddesses Gathering requested that we focus our ceremonies on our womb hearts to awaken them, to bring healing energy forth for them and to awaken them. And so the spiritual guidance was also that I interview wisdom keepers whose knowledge is deep about our womb hearts to educate and inspire us as we plan our ceremonies. And the guidance was also to make these interviews available for free to support all women. So today I'm really thrilled to have the brilliant goddess Sama Morningstar join me. And I'd like to share a little background about Sama. Sama is the founder of the Womb-Centered Healing Temple, a collaborative online space designed to support people of all genders to learn about the importance of our experiences in and of the womb. Temple members learn from each other how to recognize, reclaim, and activate our womb powers and embody their ecstatic birthright. Out of her own personal journey, healing from early childhood trauma, founded in the domination model of relationship between men and women, Sama has emerged with a passionate devotion to remember, reactivate, and reestablish womb power as our center of personal power and inner guidance. She loves to share her experience of how living in embodied womb wisdom creates an abundant fountain of vitality that can nourish our dreams of correcting the course of humanity away from self-destruction toward harmonious communion and belonging in the ecology of life. Wow. Thank you, Sama, for joining me today for the Womb Heart series for the Thousand Goddesses Gathering. I don't know if you want to add anything further to the bio that I just read for you. You're clearly a very remarkable person. And Mother Gaia, as I was just sharing with you, said, interview her. When I saw your picture on a website for a summit you were a part of, Mother's like, her. So there's something very special about you with Mother.
Yes, well, I am in devotional communion with Mother Earth for sure. I'm an avid gardener. I don't mention that in the bio, but I'm in communion with the plant realms quite intimately, and organize my life around that and the seasons and the rhythms of the body, the rhythms of the womb, and
beautiful.
The planet, all of that is just part of my intrinsic devotion. Sometimes it's hard to even articulate it because it's so much a part of it, of us. It's like how to describe the air that we breathe, you know, and what animates us from within. And I am a writer. I write poetry, and I've been speaking more and more at these types of gatherings, on podcasts, summits, things like that. So I'm learning more and more how to articulate what goes on in the unseen realms, and what we can feel, but we might not know how to communicate in a verbal way. So part of the work of awakening the womb heart is to reactivate the connection between the womb center, the heart center, and the mind center. And devilifying those centers. So many different spiritual practices have left out the womb and even vilified the womb center. And then other spiritual practices have vilified the mind and thought. So there's a reclamation. What I notice oftentimes, many people come to me to learn about the womb center with a background in spiritual practices that have vilified their thoughts for them.
Yeah.
And vilified their imagination for them. Whereas
So
the womb encompasses and embraces and reconnects all of that. And it's only problematic if you're only working with thought, disconnected from the heart and the womb and the rest of your being. But when you connect all of it and awaken the womb, then everything has a clear job and a clear place in the ecology of our lives and our being.
I love the way you word that. So could you define womb heart? Can we just sort of in a succinct way? What does that term mean to you with your work?
Succinct. Does it have to be succinct? Because I could go on and on about that for a long time.
Well, however long you want, but maybe relatively quasi-succinct.
Well, I don't know how others would define womb heart. And that's why I was asking you at the beginning before we started that perhaps you have a definition of womb heart, but it sounds like you're wanting to learn about that. And so for me, in the learnings and traditions that I have been exposed to and that I have been reawakening and becoming aware of from my own inner guidance, the womb is very similar to the heart. It's like a mirrored organ, and it's actually the central heart in our body. The womb, as we know, pumps blood. It's at a slower rhythm than the heart in our chest. But for part of the month, it's absorbing and swelling up and filling up with blood. And then for a number of days in the month, it squeezes blood out of the body. So it is a blood pump. And in Chinese medicine, it's called the womb space, is called the sea of blood.
Oh, wow.
And it's considered to be the source of blood, not only in the physical sense, but in the energetic sense of what blood does for us energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. So our blood has a holistic meaning and function and purpose in our lives that includes ancestral connection and inner guidance and wisdom, vitality, nourishment on all levels. So the womb is very similar to the heart, but in this sort of bigger time frame. Now, some people say that when they start to awaken their womb, they feel a pulsing in the womb itself, similar to the heartbeat. That's a more rapid pulse than that monthly pulse of filling and emptying of blood. That's not something that I've personally felt super strongly, even though I have a very awakened womb space in other ways. So I think different people experience that womb heart in different ways. And then there's also the connection between the womb and the heart, which is something that's very alive for me. And what I was describing earlier, and it also includes the connection with the mind. As these big centers of energy and awareness and consciousness in our bodies, and that the womb is the foundation, and there's a connection between the womb and Mother Earth, where we're receiving that vitality, that connection with all of life from Mother Earth into the womb, and then that fountains up into the heart and up into our mind and our awareness. And there's also a connection with the cosmic womb that fountains down through the mind and the heart and to the womb and back to Mother Earth. So that's probably a lot more than you were expecting to hear.
No, I love it.
That question.
I love it. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it, and I'm just thinking that your work goes very, very deep, clearly. Can you talk a little bit about your background? Like, how did you learn a lot of this other than what you've been downloading directly from mother, from spirit, from your spirit team?
Well, most of my life, I was doing that direct download because I needed it. I needed this healing, and I was definitely on a mission coming in. You know, I think I mentioned before we started the recording that I was born to a teenage single mother in 1970, when it was very much taboo, and she received minimal support, although my grandmother did support her in a lot of uncommon ways that other people in that same situation did not receive at that time. And in fact, my mom kept me a secret, my existence a secret from her parents until it was too late to get an abortion, because she knew that her parents would make her go to Mexico and get an illegal abortion if they found out that she was pregnant. So my initial months of life were in secrecy for fear of death.
You mean in utero?
In utero. And this is not uncommon.
Right.
This is very common. My mom didn't know that she didn't know anything about her fertility. She didn't know anything about her menstruation. It was very common for people in the Catholic faith and other Christian faith to not talk about, not educate their children about their fertility, and just completely uninitiate them, to not initiate them at all into their fertility and their sexuality. And so that was the result of that is a large number of teenage pregnancies, because teenagers are going to fool around, right?
Yep. They've got those hormones charging. I mean, I have a lot of strong opinions about this sort of dynamic.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Just to carry forward from that, as you can imagine, there were all kinds of ramifications of those early beginnings, and that repetitions of that blueprint, that my life was in danger, that I had to be silent in secrecy. And there were lots of circumstances where I felt that, my mom wasn't able to care for me fully effectively because of the choices she was making, and that my life was possibly in danger. But the whole time I was receiving confirmation and visitations from light beings.
Ooh, I'm feeling that energy come right in. It's powerful ones.
Right. That were terrifying to me, but also like, I didn't want them to go, but my fear would naturally come up. Like, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have any guidance.
Right.
I would just feel so filled with life and love and vitality, and be replenished in the few moments that I could withstand their presence before they would remove themselves, because it was obviously too much for me. But they would come and visit and recharge my life, and but I had no idea what was going on.
So this started when you were really young.
Yeah.
Do you know who they are?
They're all the ancestors, all the spirit beings. Now that I've learned about it, their presence isn't so overwhelming.
Right.
And in fact, it's just part of my life.
I mean, I would love to bring up something you and I were just talking about before we started recording too, if that's okay, because I got a strong sense that you have Native ancestry. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you shared with me? Because this ties in a huge way with this whole focus on the womb heart and our connection with Mother Gaia's heart, her womb heart even.
Well, I would love to share about that. And I with the caveat that we all have indigenous ancestry.
Right.
And I've been working more with my European indigenous ancestry, because there is such a prevalence of people of my complexion and my upbringing, because even though, yes, I do have Native American ancestry, I was not raised with that awareness. I never experienced any of the genocidal systems against my existence that people who are born into and raised with that awareness and that culture still are experiencing today.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. And so I received and was raised with all of the privileges and benefits of being of European descent. And so I feel that if I claim and I want to, I feel it's important to magnify the voice of my Indigenous ancestry, but the way I do that is more in supporting people who are currently experiencing the ongoing genocidal forces of our societal systems right now, and their efforts to reclaim that in a way that they have a very strong connection to that lineage. And like right now, there's water protectors at work protecting some serious jeopardy to the water systems in our country, in even a bigger way than what was happening with Standing Rock a few years back. And so I encourage folks to look into how we can activate to protect these still intact Indigenous traditions. You know, in order for me to connect with the legitimate Indigenous traditions, I need to go into a meditative state. And the ancestor that I connect with in that regard is from ancient times prior to colonization, because I've deliberately called out to ancient ancestors prior to the wounding that we all suffer from of colonization and capitalism and patriarchy, right? So that ancestor does support me. And one of the things that she supports me to work towards is this kind of awareness that right now, with my obvious appearance and upbringing of having the benefits of my European ancestry, that instead of trying to be nourished by the Native American Indigenous spiritual traditions to heal myself, that instead I call upon my European ancestral Indigenous heritage, which all is very similar, very earth-based, very connected to Mother Earth, reawaken and reclaim and heal the damage in that lineage. Because before European people were colonizing Native Americans and enslaving African people, we were colonizing ourselves through the witch burnings and through Roman violent overtaking, and the history goes long back. And those lineages, for those of us living in the United States, seem inaccessible. It seems easier to try and look to the Native American lineages or the African American lineages that kept some of that intact, or actively reclaiming or reawakening, relearning those traditions. It might seem easier to go to them than facing the wounding that our European ancestry and the shame of our European ancestry. And we really need to heal that in order to stop perpetuating the harm that's continuing to be done toward our Native American and African American
thank you.
brothers.
Thank you. That was really powerful what you just shared, and it's a really important reminder for all of us, because all of us who are from European ancestors, and what you're getting at here, if I may draw this back to the womb heart, is you know, this conversation that we're having, and the reason that Mother Gaia has asked at the Thousand Goddesses Gathering Global Grid focus on the womb heart, is that we women, in a huge general way, especially from the European culture, the Western dominant culture, have lost our connection with the womb. We've, you know, and I don't want to get too wrapped up in all that, because you've already spoken to a bit of that with what has happened over the past few thousand years to our ancestors who were people of the land, who were very connected with Mother Gaia, who never lost that connection as the more recent ancestors have. So, you know, I would love if you would, I would love for you to share, if you want to add anything to that. You know, one of the visions I've gotten from Mother, one of the messages I've gotten from her from way early on was, you know, we all were born inherently with the potential for a very strong energetic connection between Mother's heart and our energy body. But this got cut with the influences, the forces of the Western culture, the roots of the Western culture. But right now we're really focusing on, you know, our womb heart and what that is within us women. And if you want to speak at all to what you're aware of that led to this repression, that led to this disconnection, please do.
Yeah, you know, how much time do we have?
I know, this is such a rich conversation. And maybe we don't need to touch on it too much because for a lot of women, it is already common knowledge.
Yeah, well, I will mention one thing that's not as common that
Please.
that often comes up for me to share is that there's a connection between the economic state of the world and this disconnection between the womb and the earth. Okay. And in order for a few people to gain control of the resources and hoard wealth, the connection between our wombs and the earth had to be severed.
Wow.
Because it's intrinsic in our womb, and the connection, when we are connected between the womb and the earth, which can be reestablished by giving our blood to Mother Earth, which many people are discovering and is becoming more and more common knowledge. Praise be to Divine Mother, right? And Mother Earth for awakening this in us.
Yay.
This wisdom and rekindling that wisdom, that when that connection is there and we allow it to awaken our own inner wisdom, there's an intrinsic awareness that our best bet for prosperity and survival is through cooperation and making sure everyone's needs are met, not just our own individual needs.
Right.
And desires.
Right.
And so there were, you know, in our European ancestry, there are still remnants, and, you know, we can find living people still today that still attempt to practice common land holding and some systems. Like in England, I have friends who have allotments, right? And then, you know, socialist approaches to sharing resources, and all of this are about making sure everyone's needs are met.
Right.
Okay. Which means, yes, that what that means is that that people who have a greedy desire to have way more control and access to resources than other people in the world, yes, their freedom to do that is limited. But that also brings them back into connection and harmony with the whole.
The more they are connecting with Mother Gaia, Earth Mother.
Yes. And that is a symptom, that desire, that greed to hoard more and more wealth at the expense of everyone else. That's a symptom of that disconnection. No other creature on the planet does that.
Right.
Yes, in forest systems and ecosystems, you'll see some plants taking up more resources and other plants dwindling, but there's a place where that balances out, because in all biological systems, we always return, in order to survive, to cooperation and sharing. And this goes back to the earliest research and the earliest microorganisms on this planet had to go through this phase of evolution where some were over consuming and would overconsume their resources and get to the brink of extinction, and had to evolve into this cooperative model of not over consuming, but finding a balanced ecology of cooperation. The only reason you and I are sitting here alive in these bodies today is because we're made up of systems of cooperating organisms.
Yeah.
And the reason why any of us might get sick is because one organism might be not cooperating as well and getting greedy and taking up more space.
Yep.
And
so let me
go ahead.
So to draw this back to the Western capitalist system and the greediness and the hoarding, we're really talking about a wounded masculine set of patterns. Some may characterize it that way. That's how I tend to characterize it. So do men have a womb heart? Is there a place within a man's body or energy field where
Absolutely.
Okay, could you speak to that a little? Because I think this is really significant.
Yes, so biologically, when we're in our mother's womb, we all start out with a lump of cells that is the same thing. We all start out with the same lump of cells that when our chromosomes start to differentiate, oh, this is going to be a body that's gendered in this direction, which, by the way, there are 11 different ways that a person can be gendered, naturally occurring biologically. 4% of all creatures that have gender like that, all living creatures, 4% naturally occurs in some variety of hermaphroditism. And there's 11 different naturally occurring genders. We don't know this because we have such a binary gendered culture based on all the things we've been talking about with
tradition. Our cultural conditioning.
Yes, our cultural conditioning that's based on this disconnection from nature, right, and controlling nature. And so nowadays, when somebody's born hermaphroditic, oftentimes the doctors will, without even getting the parents' consent, decide what gender to surgically make that infant into.
Wow.
Okay, so back to your initial question, this is part of it, but that bundle of cells that begins to form into our genitalia is the same bundle of cells for everyone. We all have the same bundle of cells. That's the beginnings of our womb heart. That is our womb heart biologically. That's the connection, that's the portal through which our spirit comes into physical form. It comes through our mother's womb heart into our womb heart, and then comes into physical form, nourished by our mother and supported by our mother's body.
In utero.
And in utero, and our father's body too. There's an energetic connection with the father's womb heart, of course, that's there. If that connection is a partnership between the mother and the father, if there's a flow of energy, of nourishing energy from the father to the mother while she's pregnant, which is often not the case.
Which you didn't experience when you were.
I did not experience
an embryo.
So then it differentiates, but those same cells are still there for everyone. And that portal through which our spirit comes into physical form in our body is there for everyone. The big difference between men and women is that most men are circumcised in infancy. And this completely changes their brain structure. It's often done without anesthesia.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a terribly painful experience. This is based on the erroneous medical idea that infants do not experience pain.
I did not realize this. I feel like I should have known this by now, but that trauma certainly explains a lot.
Yes. And if you look back at the historical initiation in the sort of the Christian, Hebrew, and Islamic traditions of circumcision, and you look back archaeologically, the beginnings of that tradition coincide with the beginnings of patriarchal, violent domination of cultures and colonization and of the various cultures and violently overtaking tribes and all of that.
And the destruction of the goddess temples and the reverence to mother.
Exactly, because there's understandable shock, and I mean, I feel that was one of the initial decisions that were made to claim control over life and disconnect from nature, is to disconnect men from the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Through the circumcision, and that that infant is now infuriated with his mother for allowing this horrible pain and trauma to happen to him.
Oh my gosh, that's profound. That's very profound. Wow. I'm sitting here right now and I'm thinking, I want to focus on womb heart, and yet my heart's going out to all these men with this deeply subconscious wounding.
Yes, and the message that I've been given and received about that in my prayers of like, how can we heal this? How can we heal this? It seems so big that there's so many traumatized men and people of all genders going around who are surgically altered at birth, and of course feel confusion about their gender. And even if they weren't surgically altered at birth, there's all kinds of people confused about gender because of how many generations this kind of mutilation has been going on, and whatever reason, their spirit coming into a different kind of body than their spirit was expecting. And there's all this question about gender to bring our attention there. And how can we heal how this is affecting how, we're not going to survive if we don't pull out of this nosedive, this patriarchal nosedive that's aiming us towards self-destruction, right? How are we going to heal it? And the message that I have gotten time and again is that as women, and those of us in whatever gender bodies that we are, as more and more of us focus on healing these traumas within ourselves, there's going to be a time when enough of us have enough strength and connection to Mother Earth, mm-hmm. that we will be able to hold those who are terribly resistant to entering into this healing process. Mm-hmm. That when enough of us are able to hold the withdrawal of those who have been stealing inner power from others, mm-hmm. in order to have any sense of power for themselves. That's how I describe people who are greedy and hoarding wealth, people who are exploiting and abusing others. They're doing so because they have no sense of connection to any source of inner power themselves. They're so disempowered that they have to do that.
It's fear.
Exactly.
They live their lives based on fear. And this is where, as I'm starting to learn more and more, and you're teaching me a lot just here right now, which is beautiful, which is what I was hoping you do, and for everyone else who's going to be watching this. It's my sense that when we drop into our womb space and really get in touch with the womb heart, that the fear dissipates because we start to realize how much we're taken care of by Mother, connected to her heart. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole different way of living. So I would love to sort of shift a little here and ask, how can a woman access her womb heart, the center of her womb? And I know you want to lead a meditation at the end, and if that's the way you want to answer that is through that meditation, then we can put that on hold.
Yeah, well, we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, it's true.
The timing that you described, we're a minute away or less. But I can feed that minute by
Sure.
saying that I would say that anyone of any gender can reconnect to their own womb heart, because we just talked about how everyone of all genders has a womb heart, and that I feel it's essential for all of us, and those of us who do have a physical uterus, we have that physical felt sense of that connection that can guide us through our menstrual cycles and through that part of our physical body. Those of us who don't have a physical uterus, whether we had one at one point and it was removed, which is so common, unnecessarily so, in our medical system for some of the similar reasons that we've been talking about, right?
Right, right.
Underlying all of whatever the medical reasons that are professed, right? Underlying that is this disconnection we've been discussing. But also for those who never had a uterus, but had some other kind of gendered biology of one sort or of another, regardless of your relationship to people who do have uteruses, this reconnection to the womb heart in each one of us is essential to this awakening that will allow more and more people, regardless of their level of disconnection, to find that direct connection to their own divine wisdom that's
Thank you.
embodied. You know, a lot of people from those deeply held traumas at our foundational core go in this ascension, get away from here, go to someplace else kind of approach to spirituality. And that's a surefire way to just let the whole planet crumble and let's just get out of here, right? And don't pay attention to what my body's still doing, wandering around, abusing people, and, you know, sexually
Oh, boy.
all that.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
up here with somewhere else connected to the divine out here.
Yeah. We need to
Um,
be grounded to
that's
mother.
right. And
Yeah.
so the meditation I'm going to share with you is a way to bring your spiritual focus back to where spirit actually enters our physical body to be embodied and be able to implement our best spiritual ideals, our most life affirming and growthful and evolutionary and revolutionary spiritual ideals, to be able to embody them in how we create and what we create in the world, and to be able to birth a new world that many people talk about
Mm-hmm.
um, into being
Thank
by
you.
activating this power of our womb. And everyone has this power regardless of gender. So I like to emphasize that, because it's easy to talk about women because we have this physical uterus to ground us. But I would affirm again that everyone has a womb heart, because we all started with the same bundle of cells.
Thank
And
you.
yes, and it's still there energetically, even if those cells have taken a different shape.
So I just want to add something, then I would love for you to do your brief meditation. Is, you know, the vision of the global grid, the Thousand Goddesses Gathering global grid, is a field of energy around the planet. And it's the weekend is people doing ceremony in different parts of the world, and we're linking ourselves ceremonially to bring forth this grid. We're actually feeding Gaia's oneness grid, which is what's been happening since 2016, the first event. But the field of energy, the potential of it, when we are sourcing from our womb heart, connected to Mother Gaia's heart, is going to be so amplified with this awareness that you're bringing forward with what you're sharing here. So I really want to thank you for that, and help people see this bigger picture of what the vision is, you know, on that weekend of October 23rd this fall. So I'm just thrilled with what you're sharing, because it's a field of energy that will bring forward the healing for those who are resistant. You know, it's a field of energy, because the Tibetan prophecy is shifting the tone of the planet from fear to compassion. And the more of us who are sitting in our root chakra, in our womb space, connected to mother's heart, we're sitting in that place of deeper and deeper compassion. I could go on, but we don't have all the time in the world. I wish we did. But please, will you lead us through the meditation that you have in mind?
I will. And first, I just want to say one more thing, if I can, about what you were just sharing, which is that my experience is, in order for healing to happen, there's an inner awakening that is guided by Mother Gaia rising up within each of us. Okay. I can't make that happen for you or anybody else. And even as somebody who has devoted myself to healing processes and supporting others through their healing processes, after, a quarter of a century in devoting my life to that, it's very clear to me that Mother Gaia is in charge of that. And when that happens,
thank you.
And I can be available to support people when that nourishment comes up through their foundation and calls them to start or continue or nurture the healing process. And that those who are the most resistant to healing, Mother Gaia will awaken them when we are ready to hold them, those who have already been on the healing path. And it's going to take a lot of holding, because being addicted to stealing energy from others is a serious addiction and will have serious withdrawals. So that's why it's so important to learn how to fortify ourselves from within, especially those of us who have a female orientation and any kind of identity that has been exploited by those people, because we really need to feel fully fortified and nourished so that we can serve that awakening from an overflowing cup. Not from
we
a
could
place.
Talk a long time.
Good. And so in service to that, remembering how to be in service from an overflowing cup, I offer this meditation. So we can start by making ourselves comfortable. So first, I'll just dispel any belief system that anyone might have about meditation, where that says you have to sit in an uncomfortable position. Okay, we're just gonna do away with that belief and affirm that you can be fully comfortable and supported. So I like to lean back, get pillows, and relax. Put my feet up. Okay. And this comes from somebody who used to think I had to sit in lotus position in order to meditate. And also, I would like to dispel any idea that you have to be silent or still in order to meditate. So if the most comfortable position for you right now would be to stand up and start dancing around, then I want to encourage anyone who feels that way to do so. And if it's most comfortable for you to make noises, and I will in the meditation encourage you to make vocal sounds. And if you're getting lots of thoughts during this meditation, I encourage you to allow those thoughts to be there and be curious about those thoughts. Okay. So we're going to take some deep breaths and settle in to whatever body position you're in, feeling how your body is resting into the surface that's supporting you. We're going to take 3 deep breaths, letting out a vocalized sighing sound like the one that I just did, letting waves of relaxation pass through our bodies with each breath. And And just allowing those waves of relaxation to continue as you continue to breathe deeply, continue to sigh, allowing yourself to yawn if that arises for you. And creating a hand mudra called the womb mudra, placing your thumbs together and your fingertips together, creating a downward facing triangle. We're going to place that hand mudra on our bellies with the thumbs at the navel and the fingertips at the pubic bone. And then just taking another deep breath and relaxing the arms and shoulders. It's okay if the fingertips and thumbs aren't touching anymore. Your hands will naturally be creating that triangle, that portal of awareness around your womb heart center. And feeling the taking care of and giving energy of your hands aimed inwards towards your own womb heart. Taking several more deep breaths, reeling in your attention and energy from anywhere else or any other situation that it may still be engaged with, reeling it in and anchoring your attention in your womb heart center. And imagining a golden seed of light at the center of your womb heart, pulsing with life and vitality, glowing brighter with each breath, beginning to sprout a root that travels down through your pelvic floor, down through the surface you're sitting on, down through the floor of the building you're in, all the way down to connect with the surface of Mother Earth. Just taking a few deep breaths, and on the exhale, giving your love and gratitude and appreciation to Mother Earth for all the ways that she carries and nurtures us, for gravity, how she holds us close to her. And on the inhale, receiving the life force wisdom energy that she's constantly streaming upward to nourish all of life on this planet. Receiving that life force energy in directly into your womb heart space, and exhaling, giving your love and gratitude to Mother Earth, and just taking several deep breaths with this circulation of energy and connection between you and Mother Earth. Feeling Mother Earth's vital wisdom energy activating and awakening your womb heart space, creating a womb sanctuary. It can feel like a wise womb membrane expanding like a balloon to surround you, whose wisdom only allows in beneficial, wise energies. Just noticing what you imagine might be here in your womb sanctuary to nourish you, to offer you the wisdom of Mother Gaia. What beneficial allies might be here to guide you, to support you. What messages might Mother Gaia's wisdom, your own womb wisdom, your own spirit, and any of these allies, what messages might they have for you today? What wisdom is there for you to guide you on your journey today? And breathing in this wisdom, this nourishment, whatever you imagine it might be, allowing that imagination to be the activation of your womb wisdom. And on the next breath, taking a stretch, reaching your arms up overhead, wiggling your fingers, your toes, your wrists, your ankles, and giving yourself a big hug, hugging in that wise womb membrane to come in and fully contain you within your own skin. And depending on what's happening for you the rest of this day, hugging that, feeling the wisdom of your wise womb membrane, hugging in as close as need be for whatever's happening for you next. If you're getting ready to go to bed, it might stay expanded and continue to nurture you inside your womb sanctuary, or it might hug all the way down into your womb space, your womb heart space, for you to revisit at a later time if you're going out into the world. So just feeling where that wants to land for you today. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, look around the room, reconnect with the screen if you'd like to see us as we are closing up our conversation, and just allowing this womb wisdom that you've received in your womb heart space to be pumped through your veins by your womb heart. And if there's a way for us to be connected during this event that this video is a part of, I would love to hear what anyone has received as their wisdom from their womb heart today. And that includes you, Kumar.
Oh, thank you so much, Sama. That was really beautiful. And people are welcome to put your comments, your responses below this video, because this is going to be on YouTube where people are going to be watching this. And I really, I have so much gratitude for what you just shared, the wisdom, the meditation. I'm going to be sitting with this for a while, more than a while. And if people want to learn more about Sama's work, her bio and her website are going to be in the information below this YouTube video. And please, everyone, know that you're invited to join us for the 1,000 Goddesses Gathering Global Grid, October 23rd, in Sacred Circle. There's more information. That website information will be below too. So I'm honoring you, Sama, and your ancestors, your teachers, all the beautiful ones that have brought you to where you are right now with the wisdom that you carry. Mother Gaia knew that you were one of the right ones to have be part of this series, intimate series. So thank you, honoring you.
Thank you.